Long bangers,
Hello, I'm Colin.
And I'm John. Do we always do this in order now? Is that become our thing?
it
I'm
pretty
Matty,
much
I'm
is.
Colin, I'm John.
We've got into routine with it now.
Seems to
Yep.
be. He always goes first. So.
Aye. You kind of have to, though, eh? Like
Aye,
the way that it
logical.
Why?
works out.
Why is that? Because you're the boss. You try to put rank on us.
Because that's
Exactly.
exactly like if you wanted to start it off, you could do it. Like just say before we start. Otherwise, it gets confusion. The other thing is because I press the button to start it. If one of you two does it, we have to do a signal.
Aye.
No, I'm
Uh,
not doing that. I'm just the enigmatic talent that flits in and out from time to time.
who told you that?
Well, the enigmatic talent told me.
Right. You good anyway, John?
I am. I've got a wee bit of a scratchy throat and a sore knee, but otherwise I'm fine. I'm
All right.
just old as fuck.
That's what happens. I played football yesterday. I could definitely,
How you
definitely feel
feeling?
it. I feel like
Do you have chicken
That's just-
tonight? You got to say that. I always think Kim
no,
says that. I feel
I
like I always think chicken
that's
tonight.
what comes in.
Or what's it
The
called? That's the other one that I always
cuppa
think.
rolled.
I
Aye,
always think that. Yeah.
we were talking about that at work the other day. I was going to use a comparison that probably wouldn't have been appropriate for the podcast, so that's why I paused because I was like, no, I'm not going to go there. All I'll say is I wish I had somebody else's legs, backside,
Body.
arms, torso, and neck. Most of my
Probably.
head's all right.
I was going to say probably face as well. Well, you're right.
Not a face, I mean that's a given, though, isn't it? Like. That's a given. Kenny said, "Evening, guys. How's the legs? Well, mine's need replaced and soon." I was in goals the whole time, 4 games in goals, and halfway through the first, that's how busy I was and how shite we were. I was out of breath and like, fucking hell, I'm not going to
Some no bad
last.
players lined up too. That's
Aye,
the thing. It's like it wasn't even like we were a shite team.
but 10 minutes, 5 minutes into a 10-minute game, and I'm wondering if I'm going to make it,
Uh,
and I'm in goals. It
Good
was
hell.
horrendous. Um, By the way, I asked co-pilot, I was trying to think a clickbait because we don't got a topic to talk about tonight or anything. It was like, well, we've got the November games to cover, but there's been very little happening at Hibs this week, like very little news things to cling on to. Um, and so I went on Copilot, which is Microsoft's version of ChatGPT, and says, "Can you give me some suitably clickbaity titles for my live stream on a Hibs podcast where we're not talking about anything in particular?" And the one that I went with, tell me what you think of this. It's Hibs Unmasked Live. Live's obviously in capital letters. The Ultimate Insider Session. Would you click on that?
No,
No.
no.
Fuck's sake.
I think what
Well,
you could have done, if you're going to use AI to come up with a topic, you could have had AI do the podcast for us and given us the
no,
night off.
not the topic. Just clickbait title.
Oh, just the title, sorry.
That's it. Aye.
Well, potato, it's the same thing. Could
Well,
have got AI to do it.
you see that. So you put yourself down as the enigmatic
Talent.
talent. So you're going to have to be an ultimate insider instead. The mole.
That's it's my preferred position to be honest.
Fair enough. Right, well, I did go out to Twitter earlier, right? So we'll talk about the November games in a wee bit. If you've got anything that you want us to talk about, just chuck it in the YouTube comments and we will get to it because we've not got loads to.
Did anybody watch the World Cup Club this afternoon?
No.
What a
Well,
waste
yes,
of
somebody did.
time.
Well, what game did you watch, Colin?
Bayern Munich against Auckland.
And it's not Black Knight Auckland, though, is it? We should make
No,
that
apparently
distinction.
not. I asked that question in a chat
Uh-huh.
with him. No, apparently it's not. It turns out they're part time. I finished 10-0 to Bayern Munich.
That was probably very similar to the games we were involved with yesterday.
It's like it was pros against part timers. Like, yeah,
Aye.
why are you bothering with this? What the fuck? Waste
Aye.
of time.
Green Tea said, "Evening, guys." Ronnie said, "Hi, bangers." Jet and Sandy said, "Evening, guys. Hope your weekend's going well. We are Hibless, but watch the World Club Championship. Never know, we might be in it one day." Colin, would you want to see Hibs in that competition?
Oh, aye, definitely. But it is a waste of time. But fucking right, it's Florida as well. That's where they're playing it. So it's just a big
Oh, is
holiday.
it?
But yeah, it's almost it's one of them. You go, I got your picture interest there, eh? You're like, oh, aye. But that's
No, it was just you know how after the Super Bowl, like the catchphrase is, "I'm going to Disneyland." I just imagine like all these professional footballers turning up with their Louis Vuitton bags, but the reality is they're just want to go on Space Mountain.
Aye, 100%. Andrew said, "All right, dude, starting a new season this week. So glad with a few key dates. Who we're wanting for the opening game of the season? John, do you have a preference for the opening game of the season?"
Not well, yes and no, or no and yes. I never really think about it. It's obviously computer generated, warm balls, whatever it is. But someone had mentioned, I think it was maybe Suzanne Henderson on Twitter, had said Motherwell or St Mirren, and I was reminded of first day of the season, first fully attended game post COVID was Fir
Mhm.
Park. I think you and I had went, and
Oh,
Colin,
yeah,
I'm
we
not sure
did.
if you were there, but I remember walking up the stairs in the away end at Fir Park and looking out onto the pitch through one of the sort of entranceways and just seeing Fir Park bathed in sunshine, and it was a proper happy football memory after having been away for so
Aye,
long.
we went to that one together. I drove.
Aye.
Was
Fair
that the
enough.
three
So we
of
did.
us?
Aye.
Aye, and my daughter. Boris went. Or was Josh there as well? Was there
Josh,
five of us?
aye, Josh was there
Aye.
too. Um,
That totally sounded like we made that up. We were all
no,
there.
no.
I were we? No,
That
they
was
were there, and so were
aye,
they.
that was Jake Delhay's mind. That was Jake Delhay's big
Aye,
entrance.
it was
Aye.
pretty much the end of Gogic
Mm,
and the rise
yeah,
of Jake Doyle. Hayes happened in that
yeah.
game. So who did you say you wanted, John? Anyway, I switched off halfway through your story. Not as not because it was dull or anything. I'm not being rude. I was realising I'm going to have to switch off on my screen, and so I was putting the YouTube comments up on my phone.
That was my no and yes. I don't have any preference or didn't have any preference until Suzanne had mentioned Motherwell, and I thought, yes, if I was going to get one, I would take Motherwell away from home just because of that happy memory.
What were you calling?
Preferences for the
Hmm.
game. Home. I think we're due a home one, eh? Like we were away last year, so I think home game. Home game against somebody that we would, I was going to say expect to beat. Like an easy home game, but
Ah,
but
you
then
always start with the derby, then, don't you? That's what you're saying.
but then I started thinking you don't want to like an easy expectations high one and then you lose it either. So, but I think a home game that's against one of the last year's bottom six, I suppose.
Hmm. I would. I'd like us to get a run of fixtures at the start of the season, like Aberdeen got last season, so you can
Aye,
build up that momentum, and potentially build up that momentum. Anyway, Sandy said, "Hi Andrew, how about St Mirren for the revenge?" Chris said, "Evening lads." Kenny said it's a Euro draw on Wednesday and then the fixtures on Friday, so that's quite exciting to look forward to. Andrew wanted a derby weekend all round. Green Tea said she's totally against the World Club Cup. It's just there for greed and not doing the players any favours. Ken said it's the most meaningless tournament ever. Um, and Ian says, "What about the SFA charging Rangers about Brown's corrupt chat about their disallowed goal against us?" So we got this also as a talking point in on Twitter. Did you see their statement at all?
I've
I've
not,
not.
but I've seen the headline on Hibs.net. I think about it. It was always going to get charged because they've charged somebody before for that. Was it Tom Boyd maybe at Celtic TV
Aye,
done
he did.
something?
He
So
got charged for it.
they've got to do it, otherwise Celtic would have been kicking up. You know what I mean? But he was wrong, like for one, but also they've charged people before, so so fucking what, you know?
I think Rangers are saying. Well, first of all, they make it. This is what gets me about their statement is they talk about the goal that wasn't given. I think that was in the statement anyway, but it was definitely in the article. And it's like it's not really about it. It doesn't really matter what's happened on the pitch before it. The charge of you calling it the SFA is corrupt is quite like a significant thing to say, isn't it? Like a serious accusation to make. It's all right us doing it, I guess, as like fans and podcasters, but if you're a member of that association, you probably can't do it. But I think their argument was that their other commentator corrected them and went, "Oh, no, sure we can say that," as if that was like a kind of get out of jail free card.
I like
But the,
allegedly on having it used for years up.
aye, but
Aye.
the fact that he went, "Well, I fucking can," or words to that effect, like after it, kind of shoots that argument down.
There's more than that. Aye, all that.
Aye,
Have Rangers ever had a meaningful charge against them? Like, and the reason I'm asking that is because obviously John Brown, he, to the best of my knowledge, isn't employed by the club in an official capacity.
Well,
Mhm.
he must be employed because he was on the TV. He was employed technically, I suppose, through Rangers TV.
Aye,
But
but
I know what you mean. He's not like on that the staff, but
aye.
he is employed by them. That's
So
how they can
whatever,
do it.
so whatever the SFA do, assuming that they find them guilty or whatever the terminology is, then so what? Like nothing will happen. It's storming a teacup stuff.
Yeah.
Aye. I wonder if they make them do like read some T's and C's before they go on these things. Like I know I did like sort of pre and post or pre mid match with Hibs TV one season when Gordon Smart was doing it, and there was no like didn't say this and didn't say that. I think there was just like kind of use your common sense with it. But
Aye. I didn't call folk cheats in that.
aye,
Then I suggest, what was it Irvin Mills said about Morelos? Was it
Oh, that's right.
chopped up into bits and fed to seagulls?
Aye.
he called them currant buns or sticky buns or something as well,
Yeah.
didn't he? Like I know we're all up in arms about that. Maybe that's one of the ones that they're referring to. Jake Gapper sent in the story about there's a tweet about Rangers being interested in Triantis. John, any view on that?
Nah, I'll go back to my long-held scarf above the head official. I'll not get excited or downbeat until something happens. It's just paper talk at the moment.
All right, just sitting on the fence then. That makes for good content.
But it also opens up the floor to Colin or yourself to go one way or the other.
Colin doesn't give a fuck. Like he says that, but Colin's answering every question I ask him. Is just they give a fuck.
What was the question?
Exactly. See, I'm only messing anyway. I think you're right, John. To wait to see what actually materialises. We've seen folk get upset about transfers that never materialise one way or another, or
I was going to
upset
say,
if something that doesn't happen that goes on to happen.
once upon a time, did we know just, was there no, I can't remember if there was like a particular term used to describe it, but was it like silly season or like the summer headlines or whatever it was, like just journalists, football writers making shit up just to try and keep going for the next few weeks until something actually happens.
Aye. Like
Aye.
us in this podcast.
Aye, like going to
Looking for a
AI.
clickbait. Aye.
Colin, would you be sad to see Chancel going to Rangers if that one did materialise?
Aye, I would be, yeah. We'll see what happens, eh? It's just paper talk, you know what I mean?
Aye.
Maybe just agent try to eke an extra 500 quid a week out of us or something.
Aye. Keith O'Flaherty is saying if we want Chancel, we need to go in with a strong bid right away. And none of this gradual build-up of bids. If we can do it for McCowan, we can do it for Triantis.
It'll be the bids though. This is coming down now to like if it is Rangers, right? We'll have matched. We'll have paid the money. It's just then the players got to go. Well, they're going to give me X more a week.
Aye, this is one of the things that's lost them, especially on the McCowan one. Is Hibs paid what Dundee were wanting him, and they paid what they offered McCowan what he was wanting as well. Just Celtic came in with a better offer for him. Like after it was almost at the point where he was ready to kind of pick up the multicoloured pen and sign on the dotted line, and Celtic came in.
We were gazumped.
We were, and I think that's kind of where we are. Like we saw it last week with Xavier Simons, who went to Bolton in the end after we were interested. I think he had a good conversation with Hibs, and then Bolton were a more attractive proposition for him. I mean, each to their own and all the rest of it, but
we wouldn't rather stay in Bolton than Edinburgh, though.
Well,
it's an easy choice.
It's an easy choice, but I guess like a lot of it comes down to money, and Hibs can't compete with a lot of clubs. Like we pay well for Scotland, I think, but when you not if you're comparing against Rangers and Celtic, and then not if you're comparing against Championship clubs or even Kenmore Bolton are in the league. Instead, maybe even League One, I think we'll be able to kind of compete with us. So it is just like the food chain, isn't it? You have a sort of a ceiling on what you can go to, and then it's up to the player what they want to accept. So we lost out on him. There hasn't really been much else in the way of rumours. Like we're still waiting to hear for Rocky, still waiting to hear for Chantis Hoylett even, which is one that maybe would have been a wee bit easier to get over the line. Hasn't signed yet. John, do you reckon Hoylett will be in a Hibs jersey next season?
Possibly. I don't deliberately mean to sit on the fence, but I think last week I'd said that after a good season, it kind of puts every player in the shop window. There might be an opportunity for him to have a swan song, whether it's for Hibs or try and eke out a wee bit more to top up his pension.
Mm-hmm.
But you'd like to think that with European football on offer, that he might want one last crack at that kind of thing. So that might tip the balance in terms of uh, topping up his pension or trying to get something additional out of his career.
Aye.
He's probably got the World Cup to think of next year as well. Like, so does he
Mhm.
want to be playing? Maybe somewhere else closer to home would help with that. I don't know. You know, I don't know what kind of factors would come into that thinking, but he'll be looking at that.
Andrew said in the comments he's looking to get his family back up here as well. So I think David Gray talked about that. Like Hoyle had spent the year away from his family, so getting them up here would help. Chris said his views: Hoylett signs, Rocky leaves, and Chantis will be a loan with a set fee at the end of it. I would take that. I think Chantis, all of them, is the one that's probably the safest bet. We'll have to spend a fair bit of money, but I think it's a safe use of that money. Like I think we'll more than get that money back when the time comes for it to move on. There hasn't really been much else. There was a wee bit of chat earlier in the week in the Observer there, or sorry, the BBC, who were reporting on a conversation with Bill Foley, but I didn't think there was that much to pick out from that. He was really talking about the Rangers takeover and just saying if the SFA lifted the ceiling on multi-ownership, then more American money would come into Scotland, was words to that effect. Did you take anything for that, Colin?
Nah, to be honest, I've no. Like, mate, I'm switched off to all this, right? Like, I really am. Like, you need to prep me for these before it, because
It was in our
nah,
group chat.
I know I didn't have to skim that.
Aye.
Skim that.
If it's
Unless
no
it's
X,
about data
if it's no XG
stats.
or VAR, this flies over
If
your
it's
head.
no, if it's no a possibility or opportunity to wind somebody up or annoy somebody, I'm probably not reading it.
Fair enough. John, did you read anything into it? Did you think it was a sign that there's a willingness for Black Knight to spend more money at Hibs if they could spend more money at Hibs to buy more of the club?
I never read it either. I've the idea.
Brilliant.
You fucking tell us before we come on. What you ask us?
Brilliant.
What do
I
you think?
think
What's
no,
your
but
thoughts on it though? Because you read all that shit, right? Even when we're meant to be reading it, right? And it's not the summer when nobody's interested in football, right? So what is your thoughts on that? Because like you're asking us, but what do you think?
Uh-huh.
Because you're the one that actually bothers.
So I think he was talking about Scottish football in general. I think we've asked the question directly to Ian Gordon and to Tim Bezbachenko that if the Rangers deal went through and it opened the doors for more investment, would you want to do it? Ian Gordon was first to answer that, and he says, effectively, we're not looking to sell. Like we're happy owning the club, so no, it doesn't matter what the SFA said. We made the deal. That's what we're sticking at, and it's our club. So I don't think it's the SFA that's limiting Hibs and Black Knights at the moment. I think that's the Gordon family, and they're absolutely invested in it. There was a great interview. We talked about it last week, I think, but Ian Gordon in the Athletic, but he was talking about his ambition for the club, and it was brilliant reading. You're looking at it and going, "Fuck, this guy properly." Finally, I think understands what it is to own Hibs, and is like the family is fully invested, both sort of literally and emotionally, in it. I think Foley, when Tim Bezpachenko answered that question, he just said that they were happy with the arrangement and it suited all parties, and they didn't have really any desire to put more money in at this moment in time either. So, if you take them at their word, they kind of working with the cap that the SFA put in, and that's that.
I'm trying to think about this from the perspective of someone who's invested in Hibs and thinking about the arrangement that Hibs had originally with the Black Knight Group. So correct me if I'm wrong, there was a £6 million investment originally from the Black Knights, which acquired them 20 something percent of the club.
It was 26, I think 26, 27. Like,
26.
wasn't quite at the 30 that they were. Sorry, 25% it was. So they can go up to 30.
But am I right in saying that there was a bit of terminology used? I think it was something about a capital call, which could that trigger future investment without changing the stake that they have in the club?
Yeah. So if you imagine if they do that, so if you go two parties and they're both on 50% each, and they do a future capital call, and they both put in another 3 million each. They both sit still at 50. And it'd just be like sort of whatever they put in. The Gordons pretty much have to match what the Black Knights do to keep that percentage
Got you.
in their favour,
So
more or less.
with,
Like that's a sort of simplified way of putting it.
with regards to outside investment, American money coming into Scottish football, if you are already invested in Scottish football, you want to protect that investment and presumably want to try and grow that investment. So what does that require from the perspective of a billionaire? From the perspective of the group who have invested in Hibs to try and get a greater return on investment, what does that require them to do?
I guess sell it for more than they bought it. Like that's they need to get us competing in Europe. I think all the things that the club have said that they want to do, I think they're kind of quite open and transparent with the strategy. They want to sell players like what was it, £1 million plus in transfer revenue they want to get every season. They want to be competing in the group stages, European football every season, and they want to win a trophy. And I think if they do that, then everybody makes money on it. Like I think that the club grows organically that way. They get to reinvest money into it, and the other benefit that Foley mentioned in that article was they spend less if they buy for Hibs. So if we bring in a player and develop them, it costs Bournemouth or Black Knights less if they take them for Hibs than it would if they were taking them from Real Madrid or fucking another club outside
Does
the
that
network.
does that mean then that so what I was thinking about before, do they need to speculate to accumulate? And I suppose the second question I'm going to ask is, does speculation take different forms? So I was thinking about speculation in pure sort of like financial terms, like the traditional war chest of money, but actually it could be assets from other clubs that could come to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think the Gordons have shown already that they speculate to accumulate. Like you look at the money that we've spent on transfers over the years, then like we definitely shifted for like the farmer years where it was spend a
Aye.
penny less than you take in.
We've definitely speculated.
Aye, it's just the accumulating bit that's been a bit tougher. But then it hasn't been that bad either. Like you look at some of the sales that we've made since the Gordons have come in. Like even Melkerson, who didn't really make an impact on the team, still went for a million plus. We'll get good money
He's
for
no
Benty.
scoring. He's no scoring
He's
loads of goals
injured.
now.
He's
Is
in
he? I was going to
his,
say,
I think
'cause
he's in his
Yeah.
ACL or something.
you
So
normally get tagged when like somebody used to be here that scores a goal, eh?
aye. So yeah, I guess it remains to be seen. Chris says don't mind the Black Knights just holding fire just now. Could be worse. He could be a guy who's pumped 10 million and a supercomputer into a club for no saying the running of it. That's true. Ronnie says, do you know how many tickets we've sold for the Rock Vice Essen game? Going by the internet, it looks as if there will be more of them than us. So I think there's quite like a low take up on that. I know Green Tea had commented on one of the YouTube videos that we put out through the week that there was she found it quite frustrating that there hasn't been much of a take up on it. It's obviously like a historic game. It's to mark the 150th anniversary. It's the first team that we faced when we went into Europe for the first time. But it looks like it's not really caught the imagination of the Hibs support yet. Well, why do you think that might be, Colin?
Bang in the middle of summer holidays.
Do you think that's what it comes down to? It's the same day as Josh's graduation. Like I don't think we'll be at it because we've got his graduation and we've got a meal booked for it. So I can't imagine us sort of
When is it? The
canning
9th of
that to go
July
to
or something like
football.
that?
Aye, it is.
Yeah.
Aye. It's like traditional Edinburgh holidays is the first 2 weeks of July. It's like,
So you put that down to poor planning for the club then.
aye.
Fair enough, John. Do you have any advance on that?
I didn't know that it was a traditional 2 week holiday in Edinburgh, to be honest.
Trades.
I don't
Got
know.
trades. Must
I
have heard
did.
that.
Oh, is it the trades? Sorry, I didn't realise. I never made the connection. What was I going to say? I was having a think about this earlier in the week actually, and wondering because there's a Rock Essen account on Twitter who's been tweeting things out about the game and asking how many Hibs fans will go. And I was thinking to myself about, do you remember sort of post-COVID, but still some restrictions when we were away to like Rijeka and other clubs? Like there was loads and loads of Hibs fans, relatively speaking, that were going over, like making extra special efforts to get to these games. And it made me wonder if we were playing Essen away from home, if more people would go. Like, I wonder if it's just like, I wonder if there's, and like, obviously everyone will have their own circumstances. Like, for example, I might be away for work, so I might not get to go to the game, even though I'd really like to go. But I think sometimes it's quite easy to overlook it,
Hmm.
to just go, nah, it's fine. Like you've got bigger
Yeah,
fish to fry, other things to look forward to.
I think so as
Whereas
well. I
they're
think
talking
you're
about
right.
bringing 2,000 folk over, so obviously it's something like they're obviously quite passionate about their club. And I wonder if, and that was the sort of like the sort of foreign trip, the foreign angle behind it. Like, are they coming over because it's a chance to get away and go for a bit of piss up?
Hope the sales pick up. Maybe they will nearer the time as well. I mean, it's still like a few weeks away, and I think because there's no urgency to buy the ticket, it's not like when the Derby tickets go on sale or a Cup semi tickets go on sale. You're like fucking 10 o'clock when the lines open. You try to buy them right away. I think this one folk are expecting to be able to just kind of
It's a pre-season game. They're not going to treat it
aye
any different than that, are they? Like,
go
let's
on
just
pretty
be
much
honest.
last minute to get it.
It's going to be the whole team getting subbed at half time and that, the usual shit.
Aye, and Chris says, like, to be fair, the club haven't really pushed the game. Surely the club need to be doing more social media stuff to push it. I think, like, a lot of the folk at the club are off on holiday at the moment as well, so you'll maybe see like a bit more activity ramping up near then as well. Like, if you think about it, we still not launched the shirts yet. Like there's a lot of stuff still to come for the club to sort of promote things ahead of the season and for the anniversary. So
Do you
I
think
guess we'll,
we'll wear the shirt against Essen? A new shirt, a new
Aye.
home kit. That might be
yeah,
the first opportunity to see it. Would that be a draw, do you think?
I don't know if we've seen it. Like, would necessarily
It'll be on
bring
sale
folk to it,
before
but
then, won't it?
aye.
They usually try and get it on sale, like just before folk go on that traditional holiday I'm talking about, the first Saturday in July. That's
It'll be
when they usually try and get it out on the Thursday or the Friday before that. And there's queues at the shop because everybody's going, fuck, I'm going holiday in the morning.
It'll be our superstar new signings. That'll be the draw for that game, John, that we just didn't care about yet. John McEwen said, "How many kits do you think we'll issue for the 150th year?" I think there's four. That's the rumor that's going on doing the rounds, like a home one and an away one, a third kit, and then the commemorative one.
I actually thought he was asking how many are going to be on sale in the club shop. Like how many of him's ordered.
150, limited to 150.
And London, right, that's how I get the demand going
By the
in.
way, could you imagine? Like that's got to be a
Mm.
marketing thing, like embroidered on the tag, like 1 to 150.
Can't just make 150 of them? They'd be uproar, eh?
Well,
Like,
But
but
maybe you
make
can
them
make a
man,
limited
charge
edition of the
fucking
limited edition.
and charge hundreds for it, like thousands.
Or we should, Hibs, if you're listening, get us in. We will help your merchandise
Folk will
fly off
pay
the
it.
shelves.
Folk are mental, like for stuff like that. They'd pay
I
thousands.
know one guy in
So
particular.
they
In
are.
fact, quite a few of them. Andrew, Peter, if you're listening,
make a special one for them, but then get one that's available for everybody, like for the
Cheap,
masses.
cheap replica one. Aye,
For the masses, like they should be
that's what I'm saying.
accessible to folk that
Cheap
want to
replica.
get one. Right, well, we pick up from where we left off last week on our season review. We're coming into the interesting part of the season, so we've done um, August and September and October, which we covered one win out of that time, really, other than the League Cup games, which was it was a 2-0 over St Johnstone, wasn't it? It was the one that we
Yeah.
got. Now, we didn't get off to the best of starts in November. The first one was the 1-1 against Dundee United.
Mm.
John, this we kind of spoke about this before Kukovic got sent off in this game. He gave away the penalty kick. What do you remember about it?
funnily enough, it's the penalty kick. Obviously, it was back in November. There's been a lot of water under the bridge since then. But I'm just looking at I just googled Hibston United and it's got Kaharovic 89. And then I remembered, oh, the penalty in the final seconds of the game. We were winning. Everything looked fine. And then it's gone to a VAR review for a good few minutes.
Mhm.
And I think actually, am I right in saying that immediately after that, they've scored their penalty and up the other end of the pitch, a House player's been hauled down as well in similar
Aye,
circumstances, and the
there's a
referee's
horror.
just waved it away.
Yeah,
So I think my lasting impression of that game is that we were robbed with that penalty, but obviously with the opposition, and we'll come on to talk about that in when we cover the other months. I wonder if we got our own back in the end.
I think we probably. It's funny looking at it in my head. We came back from 1-0 down, and that penalty was much earlier in the game. It's funny how you remember things completely wrong, yeah. Or I do. At least maybe that's not that funny. Maybe folk are used to it by now. Um, but I think it's because we had the penalty shout after it that I thought Like I didn't quite have it. Like remember it, they were so close together. Colin, this was like another one of the proper kick in the teeth games, wasn't it?
Aye, this was because I thought from memory, right, and I've not got any of the. I'm looking at the match report there, but it felt like we were the better team, like from memory, in
Mm-hmm.
that game. And we only got the one goal. And then this was at the time where we were all still like, oh, we always let late goals in, and the stadium got nervous. I'm sure I've not listened to the podcast back for that time, but for that game, but I'm sure we were talking about stuff like where, how do we stop the crowd being nervous? Like, does that translate to the players, or is it the players that are making the crowd nervous? But it was an unjust penalty. This was about the time when Harry on Down the Slope went, they're fucking shite. Like,
Aye.
Dundee United are shite. They're in a false position. And he's right. But that was at the time, that they came here and got a late equaliser and got away with it. Like, because it was soft as shite. I mean, they got the second yellow as well. But
Aye.
Kukorevic and sent
Yeah.
off 89 minutes. I didn't remember it being that late. I knew it was late, but like last minute late. Didn't remember. And as you say, it must have been injury time then when we went up and we're going, well, is that not fucking, like when you see it back, you're going, well, how was that different? But it's because I think I wish I had listened to this one back, but to see what we were saying, but it feels like one of them where depends what the referee decides to where VAR can come in. So he didn't see the first one, so VAR can go, he's pulled his jersey, where he's thought he's seen the other one, so VAR go, if you've seen it, I can't overrule you.
Aye, that's a good point. It is a good point. But even then, he went to the monitor, didn't he, for the
From the
for the
United one.
chance. He would have had to have gone to have a look at it to decide it was a penalty. So
Uh-huh.
he's had, and what was mental was Boy was never getting the ball. Like it was
Yeah.
miles away from it. And then
That's right. That's
the
right. It was
Hora
at the back
one,
post or something.
aye,
And this was at the front post.
the
Aye.
Ahura one, he had a chance of getting the ball, and the boy just wrestled him into the ground. And I'm not sure if the referee thought it was maybe or they're both at it. Kind of one
Yeah.
of these ones, and Ahora's maybe made it look worse than it was. But I felt we should have had a penalty. I thought we were really hard done to in that game. Stats wise, we're like on the ball, 57% possession, 15 shots to their 8. Like it was a good performance. I thought we were like again another one where we were really comfortable in the game, and you thought at 1-0 it should have been enough for us to
Yeah.
see it out. And Dundee United, Harry was right. Dundee United
But
were
they clung
shite
right on, though, eh? They were, but they
all
clung
season.
right on to the end.
Aye. Not so good a performance was the match the next game week, which was the game against St Mirren and
Yeah.
a 2-1 defeat. Colin, what do you remember about that one?
I remember that on paper now, looking back, you look at it and go 2-1. But did we almost a penalty as well? And you think, oh, nearly. But I remember at the time thinking that was worse than the 3-0 defeat
Mhm.
against St Mirren at the start of the season. The performance-wise, it felt like they battered us, and we nearly got something out of it we didn't deserve. Which I think I messaged you at the time at the game when we missed. Almost like if we can get another, I can't remember the order of the events, but if we can get another goal here, this could turn the whole
Aye.
season. And obviously that was to come in a week or two's time when that actually happened. But in that game, you're thinking, we didn't deserve fuck all at this game. But there's been loads of games where I have deserved something and no got it, like the week before.
Mhm.
And that's what it felt like at the time, but it felt like we got a doing and nearly got a point out of it. Was it Nicky Cadden that missed the penalty?
Boyle.
Boyle, and then Cadden scored the penalty.
Aye,
Right.
Cadden scored it.
So we got 2 penalties.
John St Mirren scored 16th minute and 31st minute, and it looked like we were on for a bit of hiding. It was like a really painful afternoon, that one. And you remember the reaction after the game, like when at the full time. That was like probably the first time you really felt the tide had turned against the team. Really, like in terms of the support that they were getting for the fans, for folk were fucking raging at the end of this one.
We got a goal chopped off in this game.
Aye, we did.
Sorry.
No, you carry on. This was one of those games that I wasn't at, and I was watching through group chats and livescore.com. So I couldn't comment on the response from the fans. However, I do remember a response a few games later when Hibs went 1-0 down early doors. And if I remember rightly, the comment was he's got something like 87 minutes to save his job. So this game would have led into that sort of feeling.
Mhm. It was. I remember coming away from this one, and I think we probably spoke about it. I'm sure we would have spoke about it after the game when we did the review of it about we'd had the noise for the players about getting playing for the manager and stepping up, and everybody needed to kind of show that they were behind them, and you're sort of going, well, if this is used behind the manager, we've got a real fucking problem. I think this was the game where I properly kind of I feared for how the season was going to go because I was like, I think how you turn that around. If that's us really fighting and we got horsed, like it was a 2-1 horse, and Chris said the St Mirren game was 2 going on 6 or 7. We were
Yeah.
pathetic that day.
Unacceptable is what David Gray said after it.
Aye.
First half was totally unacceptable and need to apologise to the fans. That's how bad it was. This was almost it wasn't quite the lowest because we've still
Nah.
got to come to
that. Line up that day, Bursic in goals. We had Ekpiteta, Ahora, Yuan played, Boyle, Newell, Cadden, Kwon, Abita, Hoylett, and Chantis. And it was grim. Really, really grim.
Bursic got wrong-footed for one of the goals, it says in the match report.
Aye, I'm trying to remember I'm sure someone had like I think it was a shot from outside the box, but quite far out. If it was still in the box, like one of these ones for the edge of the box type thing, and
yeah.
I think he probably could have done better with it. The bench wasn't that great. Like McCurdy came on, Nicky Cadden came on, Bashiri came on, Gale came on, and Levitt came on. It's funny, like these were all starters apart from McCurdy. Like as the season progressed, Lewis Miller on the bench, and Doug Hayes was on the bench as well. Obviously didn't feature.
Bashiri came on a half time. Oh, wait a minute. It was one of the goals O'Hara gave it away. Is it like he was... And that was this when Gray was like, you make a mistake, you're off. Like, that's enough. Mind that he was pissing about with the ball and maybe he's not quite his 18-yard box, but 30, 40 yards out, and he tried a square pass and the St Mirren guy just ran on
he fell over it or something, did he?
Aye.
That was it. The boy just fucking...
And Grace just went like that at half-time. Off you come.
Aye.
Numbers up. Aye.
That's right. O'Hara did go off.
Because that's what he was doing. He's made 3 subs at half-time.
Aye.
He was just saying, fuck, he even took Giannis off. Giannis never got, never. Obviously did,
Very
but
rarely
got subbed last season.
You're right. This was probably when we started seeing Gray just kind of almost losing patience with the.
And then the week after, he done loads of it, mind.
Well, the next one was Dundee, wasn't it? Away, and it was like the infamous Dundee game where we came out of traps flying. It was a foggy night, if I remember, because there was nothing in the wind. Aye, with the snow.
You went up. It was football when it called off. I remember you talking about somebody crashed the car on the way up the road. And you thought to see if they were all right in that.
And I nearly got stuck in the snow after
because you were going up really early to do the Premier Sports.
Premier's, Premier.
I just sat in the house all day that day. My daughter's game was off in everything. And just like, I'm not going anywhere. Weather was shite with the snow. And then that made it even fucking worse, that one.
Well, I mind it was, we all got in and the fog descended when the teams came out to warm up. And you're like, okay, didn't even kind of, after having survived the snow, it then looked for a period that the fog was going to get the game called off. And they started, we scored. I think anybody really in the way end had a clue how we'd got the goal. I only saw the players wheeling away. I was like, oh, fuck, well, we scored. I didn't really care what happened. But we were really good. We looked like we could have been a couple of goals up. And then Abita gets that red card. And again, it was like I think Gray described it as like similar to Newell's one, that Abita had made the mistake and then tried to correct the mistake by...
He took a bad touch, didn't he?
Aye, just diving in to try and win the ball back. And probably was a red card, I think.
It was. Nobody was arguing it. But actually, you know what? If you look back at it, I wonder if we would still think that. Because remember, we all got distracted because Ellie Yuan done some keepy uppies.
I remember that.
That was the fallout for...
That was the headline event of this game. Like,
Bartley
and pumping.
Mikey Stewart gone daft.
Bartley was on Hibs TV, I think, and Mikey Stewart was on Premier. I think that's right. And because I was watching, what was I watching it on? I think I was watching on Hibs TV, and nobody really mentioned it. And then I seen stuff coming in the chat, but Premier Sports had kicked off, so then Twitter kicked off. And I always remember thinking, I was probably saying, I wonder if like Mikey Stewart hadn't said it, if anybody would have really bothered their arse. You know, like, because he was saying it at the time during the commentary, whereas like Hibs TV hardly mentioned that. And I seen
Aye.
him doing the keepy uppies, and I never went, "That's fucking outrageous!" Like, I never ever bothered me. Eh?
Do you know what's a bigger deal than Ely Yuan doing keepy uppies? Did you know that Dens Park is called the Scott Foam Stadium?
Aye.
I had no
Horrendous, eh?
idea.
Horrendous.
How
It's
is
Dens
it Livy
Park, though, eh?
gets all the stick for a shitey stadium name? The Scott Foam Stadium.
Aye.
Yeah.
Um, aye. So the Yuan fallout. So I remember we were talking about it, and it wasn't actually. He drew attention to himself, but the point that Mikey Stewart was making was about he should be getting like, how do we set up getting instructions for the sideline? But they can't do it. Like
Nobody was.
all the players were like sort of a bit
Just
arguing with the
Campbell was
referee.
arguing with a Dundee player. You know,
Mhm.
it was like nothing was happening.
It's funny. See on reflection. Obviously, at the time, Hibs were having a bad run. Things weren't going as well. We're getting beat. I think at that point we're getting beat 3-1 off Dundee. On reflection, do you look at like back at that and say nobody was getting involved, nobody was getting instructions, it's poor, lack of mentality, whatever you want to describe it as. But on reflection, do you look at it with the season that we went on to have? Do you say actually they're all pretty cool, all pretty calm, knew what they were meant to be doing?
Nah. So it was 1-0 at this point. We were one
I was
0
going
up
to say we were running.
when it got sent off. So we weren't like we weren't 3-1 down when the red card happened. We were 1-0
Sorry,
up.
sorry, you're right. Sorry, I thought it was at halftime. I'm
Um,
misremembering.
and but
But I suppose the question remains like, aye,
what I think was probably more pertinent was you wait to see whether VAR overturn it. So it came out with it says like they give the red card now, and the player doesn't go away down the tunnel.
Aye.
They go off while they review it, and then the referee goes, "Aye, it is actually a red card. Off you fuck." Or they do that thing where they wave their hands, go, "No, no, this
The
card."
yellow
They
back and all that.
mime it. Aye, for them pull out the yellow card instead, or no card. Never no card. They never go. They always have to fucking. I was right to get you something, even if it wasn't necessarily bookable. They'll never downgrade it for a red to none. So I think you've got an element of that as well. But this was, and then we just folded. So it was 12 minutes. Abita got sent off. Dundee scored in 26 and 31, and then just before half time. And it was, they were like comedy goals. So we had Chantis, sort of, I get hit off his back and went in for a corner, like he turned away for the ball. Bursick took a touch and fucking got tackled.
That was the third, wasn't it?
Aye.
And was the first was Chris Cadden will get caught out massively at one of them as well.
Aye, for the first one, which was a ball over, yeah, came over at his
Mm.
side and pretty much he
Didn't
tried to
deal
take
with
a
it at
touch,
all.
I think, or rather
Yeah.
than clearing it. And then I think the Cadden twins got hooked at half time, didn't they? Like, or even before half time, they
Aye,
got taken off.
I'm just going to check that, but they definitely did. But they got subbed at 34 minutes. Chris Cadden came off.
What the hell?
So
Miller and Iredale came on.
both of them came off. Aye, yeah. And I remember at the time, and I've not listened to it back because I've not got as much prep done this week on this, but I remember thinking that was harsh on Nicky Cadden to get subbed at that point.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that with retrospect because at that time we didn't know what he was going to do. Like, but I remember thinking that's a bit harsh taking Nicky Cadden off, like because he put him back to left back to cover when Obita went off, and then he subbed the two of them, and I thought that's a bit tight. I get why Chris is coming off, but surely the two of them didn't just come as a job lot. Like,
I think it was so he could get Iredale on the left side of defence, wasn't it?
Must have been, yeah.
And then it would be maybe a wee bit unfortunate. Nicky Cadden, because I can go back to your point. This was when Gray was just going, fuck it, you made the mistake off you come. And
yeah,
he could have done it with the keeper.
Which I didn't disagree with.
Uh-huh.
The keeper was a disgrace that night. Mind, he was. This was the end of him, wasn't it? But mind, he was trying to blame the defender, and you're like, no, this time. Like you nearly got away with it at Celtic when folk tried to blame the defender for you. This is fucking fully on you. Like that was me done with him then. Like I was already building up to thinking this boy's fucking murder. But that was that. I just thought, fuck's sake, I'd rather play nobody in goals.
I think this was quite a bit of a turning point. So we had a better second half performance, although we went on to concede again right at the end. Like Rocky got caught out on the ball, and Curtis Main, I think, went through to score. It's kind of immaterial, but I remember after it, somebody saying, I can't remember if they'd gone out at half time to get a flag or if they'd well, if they were leaving early, but wherever they came out was beside the away team dressing room, and they could hear basically just Gray tearing into the players, like fucking going through them. And then after it, you had Dwight Gale talking about the players not being harsh enough with each other, and needed to drive more standards. And I think we then had the team meeting on the Monday after. I think with Joe Newell sort of told the coaches to stay out of it, and he went in and led a player meeting
Yeah.
for it, showing good leadership, John. And that was
just
like the turning point, wasn't it?
out of curiosity, like Dwight Gale saying we're not being harsh enough with each other. Like, what does being harsher with a teammate sound like on the pitch or in training, do you think?
I think it's been like they're like somebody no tracking a runner or somebody having a lapse of concentration, just telling them that that's not acceptable. Like they've got a job to do, and it's like holding them accountable for the role that they've got. I
Didn't he
think
be a tick, track back?
aye. So
It's not being a dick. It's like, are you concentrating, you cunt, sort of style stuff. Because, like, but then even there, like, I'm looking at it from memory, right? Bursick was trying to blame somebody else, and it was almost like, you stop trying to fucking blame somebody.
mhm.
Take the fucking, it's your fucking fault. Like, move on. Stop trying to fucking pass the buck. Because that's what he was doing with that goal from memory. Like, I remember being like, going, I remember, I'm just coming back to me here. I remember my wife gave up watching it. The three of us were sitting watching it, and my youngest, she plays herself. So we were sitting, and she was trying to defend the players, and I'm going, there's no fucking defending them here. There is no fucking defending them here. Like, you can't, as much as you want to, because you play for Hibs and you support Hibs and all that, you cannot defend this. You can't. He's trying to blame somebody else for his mistake. He's like, and going through them all one by
He's
one.
saying
He's no
keep you up.
track pace runner. He's turned his back on it. He's didn't keep it up. I didn't think I mentioned that one, but it was like I was just I was losing the rag with him at this point because I was like. I was blaming the players more than I was Gray. Like I was getting frustrated for him as much as he must have been getting frustrated, going, these fuckers keep making mistakes. And by that time, he was just going, that's your mistake, right? Off you come. 34 minutes subs. Because I was like, good, just keep taking them. I think I said, just keep taking them off. And if we end up with 8 players, we end up with 8 players. Just say, you made a mistake off.
Aye,
I'm not
that's
bringing
what he was
anybody
saying.
off.
Aye. And the thing is, this was just on the back of the vote of confidence as well for the
Aye.
board, and you're like, fucking hell. Again, going back to what we are saying after the St Mirren game, you're like, well, if this is the players trying their hardest for you to then go and put in this performance, and it's easy to forget like that first 12 minutes or whatever it was before.
Because we had other
Uh, uh,
chances.
aye, we could have been a couple of goals up.
I'm sure Kukiewicz had a header at the back post or something. And
Mm-hmm.
like, we actually looked good. And I thought, we've got to win this comfortably tonight. And then Vito got sent off, and you go, what are you doing, man?
Just folded. Chris Black says, what I remember from this time was Gray looked awfully tired. Kieran said, a lot of people sitting here now saying they could see reasons to stick by Gray in the team. I must admit, I couldn't see it. There were zero positives up to that point in the season. Chris says Dundee was great for 8 minutes. I ended up that day with a massive scar down my shin because I was pissed and celebrating the goal. Hibs says,
Hang on, there's a bit missing for that story. You didn't end up with a scar just because you got pissed. What happened? What caused the scar?
What did you do celebrating that goal, Chris? Ronnie said Rocky made a mistake for the fourth goal and plenty of fans got straight on his back.
That's right.
Hibs said accountability, which is what we're saying about the. Ian says Colin was driving standards with the family. Can I defend the players?
Oh, that's what. But that's right. If she plays, I'm like, no, you can't have that shit. Like, it's not acceptable. Like,
But you know, like
harsh,
I was
harsh
going
truths,
to
isn't it?
I was going to mention this before, but do you not find that in the vast majority of cases that every player, if they've made a mistake, they start remonstrating, they start pointing, they start going, it wasn't my fucking fault, it was yours. Every player
goalies are
does it.
murder for it. Goalies are terrible for it.
No, me yesterday, I chucked a couple in and held my hands up immediately. Like, I can't it was me. Gilkey Hibs said the pressure on the players and coaching staff to turn it around must have been a nightmare, but glad Gray and Co turned it around. And Hibs says Downs was my last game until the end of December as I went on a cream puff and missed the start of the resurgence. Right, so on to the start of the resurgence. Like a much changed team for the next game, which was a 3-3 Aberdeen. So Smith came in, Lewis Miller, O'Hora, Yuan, Newell, Ardale, Nicky Cadden, Hoylett, Jantis, Bashiri, and Miko. was the starting lineup that night against Aberdeen. Colin, what are your memories of this evening?
So I went with my eldest to this one. This was a midweek game, and I used Greg's tickets because I think we'd gave them away that week. I think we'd be too late, so I used them. And what I remember about it is we actually played really well. Like as much as like we all remember all that madness at the end, but first half we were really good. Yuan was lively. Newell was excellent. I thought that night in the first half. Obviously he was trying to set the. He's had that meeting with them, gave them all what's what, so he can't then turn out on the Wednesday night and be shite, can he? Because he's the one that's started to set down the standards. We probably deserved to win that night, for what I remember. Like, start in the first half, where we 1-0 up. Oh, Newell scored. Mine Newell scored.
Aye, Newell scored the first goal.
Fucking Jimmy McGrath scored their fucking first.
Did he?
Prick. Aye. I've just seen that now. So we were 1-0 up at half time, and Newell scored. It's quite a good goal for outside the box. Might have taken a deflection, can't quite remember. Doing it the.
Oh, it did, because we were talking about luck. Mine we talked about bad luck and good luck, and Newell's shot deflected and it took it in, and
Aye.
that was the sort of luck that we hadn't been getting so far in the season.
Mm-hmm. So first half I thought were really good. Yuan lively, Newell really good. Obviously first game, well not first game, but the switch back to that three. At the back with Iredale starting there and Bashiri in the middle. I thought we were solid. But then you always know second half they're going to come in and get a chance. But I felt we were the better team.
John, what about you? Memories of the night?
A Tuesday night it was. Oh yeah.
Right, it's just to pick up on Colin's point there about being better. I've been talking about various games. I've been having a wee look at the XG, and actually the XG does back up Colin's point about
Nice.
being the better side. 2.2.
Was
We
it?
should have scored. That was our XG. What do I remember of the game? Not very much. It was one of those games where I was watching on live score, commentary, etc. Because that was when I was busy with uni and due to start some treatment at the hospital. So wasn't there, but do remember the goals coming in. And just as I read have a wee quick scan over the match report there, Nicky Cadden had been featuring in a couple of games before that. So we mentioned a penalty, and then we mentioned the opening goal against Dundee. But I wonder, like, correct me if I'm wrong, tell me if I'm making it up, but was this the game or one of the games where Nicky Cadden really started to make a mark for himself in a Hibs jersey with a free kick and his contribution in getting Hibs back into the game after we were 2-1 down?
Yeah. And Nicky Cadden definitely shone in this game. It's interesting looking at the form going in it. We had 1 win, 6 draws, and 7 defeats. And Aberdeen were 10 wins, 2 draws, and 1 defeat going into it. It's like a total contrast. And famously, I think they would have gone 29 points ahead of us. So when it went 3-2, deep in injury time, that would have taken them 29 points ahead of us had it finished that way. Cadden scores he scored an injury time free kick to take it to 2-2. So it was 90 plus 2 when he scored. And I was speaking to the guy that does football tweets, the Twitter account that does the illustrations. He's an Aberdeen fan, so family are all Hibs fans, and I was speaking to him yesterday, and we were kind of laughing about it. We were saying like you've got Cadden pings in a free kick for what 20 yards, 25 yards into the top corner, absolute screamer. Aberdeen then go 3-2 up. Well, Boy scores a fucking overhead kick to go 3-2 up again, deep in injury time, which is like you think that's the story written. And Rocky gets the goal that everybody remembers, which was like a fucking he tackled the keeper just about to.
First ever goal for Hibs.
Aye.
On the match report.
It was actually a really good goal. So I think Cadden played it in, and Yuan knocks it down, and Rocky.
Gale gets the assist.
Was it Gale? Was it Gale headed it down?
He got the assist in BBC report.
Aye, it was Gale heads it down, and Rocky bundles it over the line, and it just felt like such a significant result. Ronnie says we played the game like a cup tie, and that's what it felt like that night. It felt like we'd obviously like a cup tie, you'd been to draw it, but it definitely felt like a really significant game. And I think the fact that Aberdeen had been so good and we'd given them such a good game that you were like, we took a lot of confidence from it.
Yeah. It's interesting when you look at we were talking about you're saying there Newell and Gale were the ones doing the leadership stuff, and Newell scored the first, and Gale assisted the
Aye.
equaliser.
I was just having a look
But
at.
it was what I remember about it, just to come back, was that being worried for the keeper before the game,
Aye, well, he
and
made a
and I'm
couple of
not
mistakes in it.
I did, and I'm not being retrospective here at all. So it'll all be out there on the recordings. But I remember being worried that it felt like folk wanted him to make a mistake. Even Hibs
Mhm.
fans, it was mad. Mind there was folk saying, "Oh, we signed him as a number two. He's never had a career. He doesn't play. He's not want to play football." Blah, all that, and then it was like, "Well, this boy's fucking humpty, so we're going to have to play the other boy definitely." And we put him in, and it was like you could sense that folk like were nervous and not wanted. There's wanted him to make a mistake. Maybe not right, but it did feel like there was a bit of that about it. And then he fucking did. Did you know Pam won down to somebody for one of the goals? Moved the
I flapped it
2-1,
across, I think, and then I.
and the nobody kick came straight at him as well. So it wasn't great. But other than that, I mean, yeah, he was brand new apart from they two.
Um, and we finished November with a 3-0 win at Fir Park. Line up that day: Smith, Lahora, Yuan Newell, Chris Cadden, Iredale, Nicky Cadden, Hoylett, Chantis, Bashiri, and Kukovic. Now, this one, John, it was so important that we followed up that result against Aberdeen with a win, wasn't it?
Aye, do you know? There's obviously been quite a bit of social media commentary about the significance of the game against Aberdeen and the result and how it was the sort of turning point for the season. And I think where we were in the league at the time, we were at the bottom, and you mentioned before about being what was it? I think we were 28, 20, was it 26 points
Aye,
behind Aberdeen
26.
at that point, and they would have gone on to 29. So there was that massive gap. And at the time, I would have looked at that game as being significant, probably because it was a point in unexpected circumstances,
Mhm.
which in a relegation battle could have been massive, but also because it kind of put a dent in that idea that Hibs only concede late goals. Like we always chuck it away in the dying minutes, not that we ever salvage anything.
Mhm.
But I think you're right. I think, and again, like taking it in the context of where we were, and I don't know that anyone was talking about like say XGs or data. I think Colin, you mentioned it before that the results belied the performances that the team were putting in. But again, like the reality was we were still bottom of the league. So I was still looking at it thinking, right, we need to keep putting points on the board and trying to like pull ourselves away from like try and catch the team ahead of us and try and pull away from them. But that was maybe the first indication that there was actually something about the team. Like and because and it's quite hard to talk about sort of contextually because we know what happened next. But to get those 3 points, and I think this is, I wonder if this is something that maybe helped keep us honest for the rest of the season and not get too far ahead of ourselves was, right, so we got 3 points against Motherwell, and that was great, and it was really important. But also we knew where we'd been before those games. So that
Mhm.
was always in the back of our mind. It was almost like that thing that was kind of pushing us on to keep putting in those performances.
Do you know
And
what? Sorry, Sean.
sorry, just one last wee thing, because I remembered it. So I'd written a wee thing for the Hibs Patreon just to talk about where I'd been and what I'd been up to. But I remember specifically mentioning about Nicky Cadden at that point, but also the the importance of Dwight Gale. And you'd mentioned an assist in the Aberdeen game, but he also came on and provided a knockdown for Josh Campbell in this game, late
Mm.
in the game. So again, that's that additional thing about he was a really valuable part of the team when he started, but there was also times when he came on where he helped kind of drive away that idea that we would concede late, which took away
That's
that
right.
nervousness.
He absolutely, and he carried that on all the time, didn't he? Like,
Aye, it was
because that was
superb.
81 minutes that one, and that's what made it 3-0. That's everybody went sigh of relief. But it's 2-0. You're thinking, if we let a goal in here, we're up against it. Totally just took the game out of their way. What was I going to say about this game? This was I can't remember what I was going to say there when you were talking. Sorry, carry on.
I think this might have been it took us out of the bottom two as well. I think when we won this one, I seem to remember after we ended up out the bottom two and we were able to make predictions about not going back into the bottom two for the rest of the season.
I remember what I was going to say. And do you remember that we got beat off Motherwell? And we probably just spoke about it last week. We got beat 2-1 at home.
Aye.
I remember us talking about how the stats in this game weren't that dissimilar for that 2-1 defeat.
Aye.
And we hammered them 3-0. But we had the same amount of possession, same amount of shots. I think if we checked the XG by this point, John, if that came later. But we were actually like if you looked at the two games on
We were
paper,
better on
the
the home game.
numbers. Aye, but the home game was slightly better. And we beat them 3-0. Because we took our chances and killed the game.
Right, that will wrap up there on November. We'll tackle December next week. I think we're going to have to start. I think how many weeks we've got till the season starts again.
There'll be a million games in December because
Aye.
the fucking they all ram them in fucking random days.
Chris said it felt like the fog over the club and the team had lifted after the 3-3. There was a massive buzz after us, and for a while, Kieran said it was a relief to get the point. Chris said we were excellent against Motherwell, absolutely dominated that game, and massive to back up the Aberdeen draw. I think that was it. That obviously was on the start of a run at that point, and we didn't really know quite what that run was going to look like in the end. But aye, it was good. Definitely, felt like a cloud had moved away for the club at that point. Anyway, right, we will wrap up there. Thanks very much for tuning in, as always, for everyone who's joined us live. And if you're listening to this retrospectively, hope you've enjoyed the show. You can get more content. We'll have extra time out tomorrow for our subscribers. If you want to subscribe, you can do it by clicking on the link in YouTube or by visiting Patreon and finding long bangers there. But thanks for tuning in, and we will see you.